Yeah, I know the majority of you have already seen that short one-panel leak for Chapter 28, and I also know this isn't about Code or his arrival in the middle of Mamushi's invasion on Konoha, or him jumping in as some kind of intervention that causes even more chaos. Nope. What we got is a few cutscenes showing Boruto flying at high speed with his sword towards somewhere, along with some dialogue from characters like Shikamaru, Koji, Inojin, and even Kawaki. So far, for at least the next 8 minutes, I want to talk about two possibilities, or reasons, why things here might not actually be what we think. First of all, I'm Nim without the E. Please help me fix the algorithm by liking this video. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, let's start with an analysis where I think in this case, most of us have the same expectations, especially when it comes to Boruto himself. More specifically, the sword that we previously knew Sumire would repair and upgrade using the technology from that scroll. But somehow, judging from the result, I honestly can't believe Sumire finished it that fast. I know this might spark some debate, but let me finish this until the end. On the other hand, with Mamushi already revealed to be on the move in the last chapter, this leak becomes even stronger evidence for many fans that Boruto's sword is already fully restored, and that Boruto is now heading to Konoha to fight the Shinju. But of course, with the speculation about the sword being ready earlier than we expected, there's another possibility. What if that sword isn't the one being repaired at all? What if it's just a temporary sword, or something else entirely? You know what I mean, right? Yeah. Even though it sounds like a joke or reality, are you completely sure that Boruto's sword will be ready that quickly? I mean, don't you suspect that this leak is actually a flashback? But as I said earlier, let me finish first. First, if you still remember the leak in the previous chapter that showed Jura relaxing in Konoha while enjoying a sweet snack and tea, surely many of you guessed that Jura had moved earlier before Mamushi appeared in Konoha, right? But in fact, it's not what we thought. After all, when Koji gave us information about Shinju's movements, he should have said earlier that Jura would move to Konoha first. But in reality, Koji didn't say anything about Jura moving to Konoha earlier. Instead, he gave us information twice that Mamushi would move to Konoha. And as additional evidence, in the last chapter it was implied that Jura's movements would only be revealed if either Boruto or Hima appeared. And if they didn't, then neither would Jura. But if the battle happens in Konoha, he won't show up at all. This also means we can conclude that the leak doesn't fully prove Jura moved earlier than Mamushi. And regardless of whatever Jura plans to do, or even the idea that he won't cause any destruction inside Konoha because he actually likes the village, at the very least, that's what Koji said. Jura won't move as long as Boruto and Hima don't appear. And yeah, the leak from Chapter 27 last month, where we assumed Jura had moved way earlier than Mamushi, turns out we were wrong. And of course, this is also related to this latest leak. Boruto is shown flying somewhere with his sword, and honestly, for me, it's hard to believe it would be finished that quickly. Yeah, Boruto's sword seems to be done faster than we expected. And as we know, there have been so many unresolved events in the recent chapters. But if the fact is that this is not a continuation of Chapter 27, but a flashback, what kind of scene should the flashback be? At this point, there is additional evidence that, in my opinion, suggests that the Chapter 28 leak is a flashback. First, about Boruto. After seeing how he flew so fast in a certain direction, many people assumed that he was going to Konoha to fight Mamushi. But that's not a problem. However, let's say it's a flashback. In this case, I suspect that it is a continuation of the last few chapters, which certainly have some parts that have not been fully revealed. Disclaimer, guys, this is just speculation from a Boruto addict, and the reason I say this leak is a flashback is because I'm referring to the leak in Chapter 27 a month ago. In short, we know that in Chapter 26, Boruto and Momoshiki made a deal, and until now the scene ends with an unclear or unfinished decision. Whether Momoshiki agreed or not, there has been no confirmation. Yeah, regardless of how fans expect that Boruto and Momoshiki have become one, for some reason I assume that Momoshiki is asking for additional conditions. Then what does this have to do with the Chapter 28 leak that shows Boruto flying so fast and of course with his sword too, right? So what if Chapter 28 continues with the agreement between Boruto and Momoshiki? And if we look at how Boruto flies so fast, for some reason, I suspect that he is returning to his hiding place. As an additional proof that this is a flashback, the dialogue between Shikamaru and Koji is the most important. First, there's Shikamaru. In the leaked dialogue for this chapter, Shikamaru basically says that it happened a few days earlier than what they were told. And of course he's talking about Mamushi, right? But if we say that this is a continuation of the end of chapter 27, does Shikamaru's reaction represent Mamushi already being in Konoha? I mean, does Shikamaru already know that he is in Konoha without being detected? Because as we saw at the end of chapter 27, each of the Mamushi reminded each other to erase their before Konoha could detect their chakra. In other words, this leak should still be continuing the dialogue from the recent chapters about Mamushi, because if our point is that Mamushi has already arrived in Konoha, then Shikamaru shouldn't even know that Mamushi is already inside the village, right? Because of course, Mamushi's movements shouldn't be predictable at all if he has already appeared in Konoha. But at least for this point, do you guys agree? And whether you agree or not, it's totally fine, guys. Second, there is Kashin Koji's dialogue. In short, Kashin Koji says that fate has changed. Well, of course, this is also what I think is very strong additional evidence, because after all, the agreement made between Boruto and Momoshiki indirectly means that Boruto has changed fate and the future has become more complex. Because you need to remember, Boruto is a singularity of fate. Whatever he does and any movements without Kashin Koji's instructions will certainly lead to several probabilities, whether it's a worse possibility or even the opposite. In essence, what Boruto did with Momoshiki at that very moment indirectly changed the future and fate, because even the smallest action by the singularity of fate will change everything and cause it to branch out further. But for Kashin Koji's case, what do you think? What does it mean that fate has changed? Is it about what Boruto has done? Please tell me. Third, about Inojin. This case is honestly difficult. I mean, when Inojin was summoned to the hideout, he reacted with such surprise upon seeing Boruto there. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Fourth, about Kawaki. But for Kawaki's case, I want us to discuss it in the comments. Is it a continuation of the flashback after his agreement with Amado in the last few chapters? Or is it just a scene that shows, or more precisely represents, fate changing? That is, along with Boruto and Momoshiki's agreement and Kawaki gaining power from the limiter being removed, it is representative of fate changing. Yeah, that's how it is. But regardless of whether it's actually a flashback or not, let's discuss it in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next spoiler. Bye-bye, Databayo.